Have you ever ignored someone because they look too young, too poor, or too ordinary to matter?
Sometimes the smallest voice carries the biggest miracle. One quiet moment can change a life forever, and one act of kindness can reveal a truth no amount of money can buy.
Today's story is about a millionaire who believed he had everything under control until a little black boy looked him in the eyes and calmly said, "Don't move, follow me." What happened next left him completely speechless and reminded everyone watching that kindness often arrives in the most unexpected way. Before we begin, welcome to Heartline Stories. If you enjoy emotional stories that restore your faith in humanity, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories with people around the world. Richard Collins was a self-made millionaire from Chicago. At 52, he owned several successful construction companies and was known for making fast decisions. His expensive suits, luxury cars, and busy schedule made people think he had a perfect life. But behind the success was a lonely man who had lost his wife years earlier and had buried himself in work ever since. One Saturday afternoon, Richard decided to take a walk through a neighborhood park while waiting for an important business meeting nearby. The park was full of families, children laughing, and people enjoying the warm sunshine. It was peaceful, something Richard rarely allowed himself to experience. As he walked across a small bridge, he noticed a young black boy sitting alone on a bench with a worn backpack beside him. The boy couldn't have been older than 10. He quietly watched the people around him with kind, thoughtful eyes. Richard smiled politely as he walked past. Suddenly, the boy stood up. "Sir," he called. Richard stopped for a second but kept walking. Then the boy spoke louder. "Don't move, follow me." Richard frowned. "What?" The boy pointed toward a group of trees just beyond the bridge. "Please. Just trust me." Richard almost laughed. Why would a millionaire follow instructions from a child he had never met? But there was something unusual about the boy's voice. It wasn't fear. It wasn't panic. It was calm certainty. Against his better judgment, Richard followed. Only seconds after they stepped away from the bridge, a large delivery truck lost control on the nearby road. It crashed through the bridge railing exactly where Richard had been standing moments earlier. Metal twisted. Concrete cracked. People screamed. Richard froze. If he had ignored the boy, he would have been standing there. His heart pounded as he stared at the destroyed section of the bridge. Then he slowly turned toward the child. You saved my life." The boy simply nodded. "I saw the truck swerving a long way back. My grandma always tells me to pay attention when something doesn't feel right." Richard could barely speak. "What is your name?" "Malik." Richard thanked him over and over before emergency crews arrived. Reporters quickly surrounded witnesses, but Malik quietly slipped away before anyone noticed. Richard couldn't stop thinking about him. The following Monday, instead of rushing into meetings, Richard returned to the park hoping to find the boy. After asking around, he finally met an elderly woman feeding birds. "You're looking for Malik," she said with a gentle smile. Richard nodded. She sighed. "I'm his grandmother." She explained that Malik's mother had passed away from cancer 2 years earlier. Since then, she had been raising him alone while working part-time cleaning offices. Money was always tight, but Malik never complained. He spent his afternoons helping neighbors carry groceries, mowing lawns for older residents, and reading books from the public library. Richard listened quietly. "He saved my life," Richard whispered. The grandmother smiled. "That's who he is." Richard asked if he could visit them. Their apartment was small but spotless. The furniture was old, the walls needed paint, yet laughter filled every room. Malik greeted Richard with the same humble smile he had worn in the park. "I didn't expect to see you again." Richard looked around. "You have so little, yet you seem happier than most people I know." Malik shrugged. "My grandma says people aren't rich because of what they own. They're rich because of what they give." Those words hit Richard harder than any business lesson he had ever learned. Over the next several months, Richard became part of their lives. He helped repair their apartment building without telling anyone who paid for it. He quietly created scholarships for children in the neighborhood. He donated books to local schools and funded after-school programs. But every time reporters praised his generosity, Richard always answered the same way. "I learned kindness from a 10-year-old boy." One afternoon, Richard invited Malik to visit his company headquarters. Employees expected another important client. Instead, they watched their millionaire boss proudly introduce a child. "This young man is the reason I'm standing here today." The room fell silent. Richard shared the story of the bridge and explained how Malik had reminded him that every person deserves respect, no matter their age, appearance, or background. The employees gave Malik a standing ovation. Months later, Richard established a foundation dedicated to helping children from underserved communities discover their talents and pursue their dreams. He named it after Malik's late mother, honoring the family that had unknowingly transformed his heart. At the opening ceremony, hundreds of families gathered. Richard stepped to the microphone. "I spent years building buildings," he said. "But one little boy taught me how to build hope." He invited Malik onto the stage. The audience applauded as the shy boy walked beside him. A reporter asked Malik what he wanted to be when he grew up. Malik smiled. "I just want to help people, like my grandma does." Many people wiped away tears. Richard looked at the crowd. "I thought I was successful because I had millions of dollars. I was wrong. Real success begins the moment you choose kindness, even when no one is watching." The audience stood once again. As the sun set behind the city skyline, Richard realized the greatest investment of his life wasn't in buildings or businesses. It was in people. And it all started because one brave little boy cared enough to speak up. Every day, we meet people whose stories we don't know. Some may look ordinary, but they carry extraordinary courage. A simple smile, a helping hand, or a few kind words can change someone's future in ways we may never fully understand. If this story touched your heart, remember that kindness doesn't require wealth, power, or fame. It only requires the courage to care. You never know whose life you might save, whose hope you might restore, or whose heart you might change with one compassionate choice. Thank you for watching Heartline Stories. Until next time, keep choosing kindness, because the smallest act of love can create the biggest miracle.